Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Commander Tom Deegan. I'm the commanding officer of the future USS Arizona. We are called PCU right now, Pre-Commissioning Unit, only because we are not commissioned yet. We are a Virginia-class submarine under construction at Electric Boat in Groton, Connecticut. So once we are commissioned, commissioning means you're now a warship in the Navy, and the Navy owns you, and for the nation's tasking. And once we're built and fully built, that's when we become the USS Arizona. So, do a little background about myself. Commander Tom Deegan. I grew up in the Navy because my dad was a career submarine officer. Retired for 30 years, so I actually grew up in Hawaii until I was about 11 years old. Because we're in Hawaii, actually, and because I already met somebody that served with him, he's Tom Deegan as well, and he was on the San Francisco and Olympia. So if there's veterans that were on those two boats, we are the same. I am his son. But then, Hawaii. Then I moved around Georgia, DC again. Went to Penn State. Did Navy ROTC at Penn State. Got my commission. Was Penn State? Yeah. Not a great game yesterday, but whatever.
Sorry.
And then pretty much did the career submarine pipeline and career path. About 20 years of service now. Did my JO tour, junior officer tour, was out of Groton, Connecticut on the USS Miami, where all we did was deploy, just underway all the time, CENTCOM and Northern Atlantic operations. And then went to CTF 69 in Naples, Italy, which runs submarine operations in the European and African AORs, area responsibilities. So did that, and then came back to Hawaii. I was a navigator on the USS Columbia. We did a Westpac deployment, and Hawaii is always beautiful. It was a fantastic tour. And then PERS in Millington. I was an XO on the San Juan, USS San Juan, just another fast-attack submarine out of Groton. Did some operations there too. Worked for the SecDef. I was his Navy guy that did his paperwork at the end of Secretary Esper and the first year of Secretary Austin in the Pentagon, so that was really cool. Good experience. And then got to the honor of my career is to be kind of the first CO of the future USS Arizona, and to kind of bring that in and start that up again is super important. And we're trying to do it right, and we're going to get into that quite a bit. But before we do, I'll pass the microphone and introduce the crew we have today. We have 5 guys from our crew here in the uniform. And the first one is the chief of the boat, head enlisted guy, Dave Jackson.
Hey, good morning. Can you all hear me? All right, normally I don't speak with the microphone, and I speak awful loud. So I'll just talk like I normally do. So Dave Jackson, I've been in the Navy for about 24 years. This is absolutely the best boat I've been on so far. To take it off the ground is wonderful. And I come from Denver, Colorado. So anybody from Denver? Perfect. That's awesome. I'm here with my supply chief, Juan Acevedo. Come on up.
How's everybody doing? Good. All right, so I've been in the Navy for 19 years, 11 months, and the Arizona is my 5th and last submarine before I retire. I was raised in Virginia, and I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. Like the captain, my dad was in the Navy. He was a surface storekeeper, so I just followed his footsteps, except I won submarines.
Hello, I'm ATN2 Jones. This is my first tour. I got sent to do some operations on 2 other boats, but I'm from Alaska. I joined to get out of the cold, and now I get to be part of this amazing project.
MM30 Thomas. I'm from Kentucky, the greater Cincinnati area, so a lot of people like to just say I'm from Ohio, but I'm not, and I joined to get away from that area.
Yeah, so there are two first sort tailors here, or engineering department. So they help kind of getting trained to push the boat, kind of thing, get the further nuclear propulsion. And we're also honored to have with us today Miss Nikki Stratton. She's the sponsor. She's going to tell you a little bit about what a sponsor is for a submarine. But a sponsor is incredibly important for the ship's life, but especially in the beginning to get it off on the right foot, and especially Arizona and the connection that she has to the legacy and to our boat is probably the most unique, most special relationship that a submarine has, or a ship has, in the beginning, just because of what Arizona means to the nation and what Arizona means to the Navy. So we're super happy, super proud to have her as our sponsor, and here she is.
Basically, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family history, and then that kind of goes into how I got the sponsorship. So my grandfather was Donald Stratton, Seaman First Class aboard the USS Arizona on December 7th, 1941. He was in the superstructure. So when you see the most famous image of the Arizona kind of tilting sideways, there's a little, looks kind of like a little shack or like a little room. He was in there during the attack on Pearl Harbor. He was burned over 65% of his body and escaped by climbing hand over hand to a neighboring ship. A man by the name of Joe George threw a line from his ship to the Arizona, and him and 5 others climbed hand over hand across the Arizona. So, you know, one of the most memorable things that my grandfather ever said is that when he landed on the Vestal to relative safety, obviously Pearl Harbor was still going on, you know, he looked at his arms and he realized that his arms were just so burned that he kind of rolled the skin down his arms like a tube sock. And it's just kind of that type of tenacity that kept him going. And about a year and a half later, he was recovering, and then he re-enlisted in the Navy and went right back to World War II. So it was an interesting time for him, because they basically said, well, you know, you've served your time, you know, even with World War II going, we're good. And he's like, I want to go back. And he's like, what do I have to do? The Navy decided to send him back to boot camp for a second time. So they wanted to make sure that he was fighting fit. Ended up retiring from the Navy after World War II. He unfortunately passed away in February of 2020. He was 97 years old. Him and my grandmother had been married 70 years. And it was at that funeral where the Secretary of the Navy spoke and kind of pulled me away afterwards and asked if I would sponsor the new USS Arizona. He said that he couldn't in good conscience name just a sponsor with no connection to the original battleship. And so I always say, on the worst day of my life, I was given this most incredible gift, the ability to tell my grandfather's story over and over and over again and have a lasting connection with this new submarine. And so basically what it means to be a sponsor, pretty much every single ship in the United States Navy has one single female sponsor. They do a lot of the kind of groundwork for helping to build a lot of the culture within the boat. And they can be as active or as inactive as they like, but there are kind of 3 main elements to being a sponsor. And the first one is the keel laying. And most of the time when you have a boat or a submarine or a ship, there's a keel. Obviously submarines don't have them because they have rings, but that's okay. So December 7th of 2022, we laid our keel down ceremonially out in Quonset Point. And basically what happens is the sponsors' initials are actually welded into the keel plate. I took it a little farther and actually welded my own initial into the keel plate. And as far as we know, I'm the first sponsor to actually weld myself, which is pretty cool. The next phase is going to be christening. And so I'm sure all of you have seen online where somebody smacks a bottle over the nose of a ship. So I will be doing the christening probably the next couple of years. And a unique trait with the Arizona is that it'll be christened with 2 bottles, just as the original battleship was. So in 1914, I believe it was, the Arizona was christened with first water that flowed over the Roosevelt Dam. It was the first dam that was created in Arizona. And Arizona was a dry state at the time, so they did not want their first battleship to be christened with alcohol. And then the second will be was the traditional champagne. So for me, the first will be root beer to honor our original battleship sailors. A lot of those guys drank root beer to kind of settle their stomach as they were recovering. And then the second will be traditionally the champagne. And then the final step is commissioning, and that basically, gets the ship to wherever it's going to be commissioned. We're fingers crossed it's going to be here in Pearl Harbor. Basically what it does is I will call the ship to life. Our incredible sailors and crew will board the ship, and from that moment on, it is an active U.S. military vessel, which is pretty cool. So, it's been a true honor and a privilege, though, so far to be sponsor. And I can't thank Commander Deegan enough for all of the work that he's been doing to ensure that the sailors of the current PCU Arizona understand the legacy, understand the history, and know what a special and unique opportunity being serving on the USS Arizona. So I'm going to hand it back to him, and we'll get going.
So a lot of this is going to focus on kind of the initial steps, which we don't really talk about too much because it only happens once, and then the whole rest of the ship's life is operations and normal submarine things. So, but there's a lot of really cool things that happened in the beginning. So we manned up about a year and a half ago, and kind of nothing exists as a command, and you gotta start it up, and you gotta set the culture, bring in the legacy, set the relationships and stuff like that. And one of those things is we just approved and we just unveiled last night is a ship's crest. So if you've ever seen an image for the ship, it's like the logo almost. Every ship has one, and you start it right in the beginning, and you don't really get to do it. Normally you go to these boats and everything's already set, and the crest is whatever it is. But in this case, we got to make the crest and get that approved. So the crest is displayed on the slide. That's very high on the slide here. But it focuses, it's trying to capture the identity in a picture of our submarine. So what we did to get it approved is we also have a commissioning committee. Is a committee to help with the commissioning and the ceremonies and the connection to the state. And these two individuals here in the front row is the president and her husband of our commissioning committee. They're from Arizona. We wanted not only the legacy, but the state connection. So the state of Arizona, great state in America, and they held a statewide high school competition for the crest, to inspire the crest. So everybody's art class, last year got to homework assignment, go make a ship's crest for the future USS Arizona submarine. So I think there were 200 actual submissions, which was a lot, and they were all sorts of stuff. And then we took those to inspire what we're trying to get here, and it's obviously the shape of the state of Arizona. It's a submarine there, obviously, and so we're not only we're special because of the state and the legacy from the battleship and the first warship named Arizona since December 7th of 41. But we are a new kind of submarine, a Virginia fast attack submarine. And we normal submarine, we shoot Tomahawks out of the bow, Tomahawk missiles. Our first one is you kind of cut a submarine in half, you extend it out 85 feet, you put a new section in, and you put 4 big Tomahawk missile tubes that can shoot 7 Tomahawks apiece, and so now we can shoot out of the middle, and that's kind of capturing that because we're the first submarine ever to get that done. So it triples the lethality of a Virginia fast attack submarine, which is a big deal, and why not, right? It's a little bit more expensive, but and then so the outline is the copper state, and we wanted to capture. I don't think you can really see it well in this picture. But if you look closely, the reflection of the submarine in the water, it's hard to tell from this picture, is the outline of battleship BB-39, USS Arizona, in its prime, right? It's important because I think everybody in America, or most people in America, when they think Arizona, they think the Arizona Memorial, which is hugely important, and kind of, when you see the memorial, it's so beautiful, and you know what it is, right? So we wanted to capture that, which is in the bottom right. But we wanted to capture the battleship in its prime, not just, it's to remember the day in the fallen, but also remember it's the prime of when it was serving. So we got both of those in there, which is good. So the state, the legacy, and the VPM, the Virginia Payload Module, was the extra Tomahawks. So we're pretty proud of it. But so that's one of the really cool things we do, you get to set that crest design. So some history about us too. Miss Nikki Stratton referenced the keel laying, which happened on December 7th of 2022. Coincidentally, right? No, but it's why not? That's super important. And ever since, so that was great in Quonset Point, Rhode Island. And then we're pretty popular actually every December 7th every year. And last year we had the honor of going to the United States Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C. Kind of, if you don't know what that is, it's the statue of the lone sailor. That statue's at the Navy Memorial. It's in downtown D.C. And we had the honor to give both me and Nikki be the guest speaker for that event. And then afterwards went to the Arlington National Cemetery and laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier together in honor of the fallen and the 1,177 people that died that day on December 7th. And not everyone was identified, could be based on the massive explosion. And then there are some, I believe 88 personnel sailors that are buried at the Punch Bowl in honor of them as well. There was some that were identified, but there's a lot that weren't, so in honor of that. So that's just a super special moment. Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, very beautiful. If you've been there before, you know that. And so that was just a huge moment for us because we want to get it right. Then this year, just for December 7th stuff, we it was our first time to come to Hawaii as a command, bring some sailors, and be here and honor our legacy and the sailors that came before us. So we were able to be a part of the ceremony yesterday. Yesterday morning, Miss Nikki Stratton was the guest speaker for the December 7th ceremony. Yesterday morning, got out to the memorial, and that was just a really reverent moment. So really good opportunity for us. But again, I said we're at Groton, Connecticut, which is submarine capital of the world, if you didn't know that. And that's where they build submarines. They also build them out of Newport News, Virginia. But we're a Groton boat. And then since the picture's up here, a little bit about construction, not too much. The Virginia class program is based on modular design, so you get like chunks of submarines of the submarine, and they get built in Quonset, Rhode Island, and Huntington Ingalls in Newport News, Virginia, and they each build the modules and they ship them to their final location to kind of get the modules and put them together. And the module this is a good picture of it. It's like here's this is the forward engine room portion. And they come in chunks, and you're waiting on all the chunks to show up, and segments and modules to show up, to weld them all together, put it all together, certify everything. It's one of the most complex things we build in America, right? As a society. So it is expensive, but it's also it's really, really hard. We have a nuclear reactor on board. We have there's going to be torpedoes and tomahawks and high energy systems and high voltage electricity, that kind of stuff. So. A lot of you got to do it right the first time quality, and we're not the only one too. So the current Defense Industrial Complex, or Congress a couple of years ago authorized 2 submarines a year, which is great. And then, but you got to ramp up the whole industry to pump out 2 a year. So it's we're still working on that as a nation, both in Virginia and Connecticut. And for example, in Connecticut, we have 7 projects right now that Electric Boat is trying to pump out. 5 new construction submarines, 1 new construction, or 5 new construction Virginia class submarines, 1 Columbia class, which is the new SSBN replacement for the ballistic missiles, and then 1 just availability. So lots of stuff going on in Groton, lots of work to be done. So if you would like to weld and you want to move to Quonset Point, Rhode Island, or Groton, Connecticut, they could use you. So you can sign up at the door. No, just kidding. But yeah, it's lots of stuff going on back where we come from. So, and then kind of last thing about our our manning for how we man the ship is we man them in increments, just kind of like the modules show up. We show up in increments till we get about 130 people is what a crew of a submarine is for a fast attack submarine. So that's where we're going to go to. We haven't got all the increments yet. That happens throughout the construction lifeline or timeline. So we're the first increment, which is the most special increment because you get to be first. So this slide represents a couple things. One, the 3 priorities I kind of went through earlier. What makes us special? Like, there's a lot of submarines out there. There's a ton of them, which is great. But what makes Arizona special is the great state of Arizona. And it is super supportive. Every time we've been able to go to Arizona twice now, and all sorts of things. Arizona. We went to some sporting events like the Suns, ASU football, which is good this year. And we went to a Cardinals game, Arizona Cardinals
game, baseball, did volunteer work there. It's just, when we go there, it's nonstop. Every day we're just doing stuff.
All day.
And it's immense, but we want to make sure that people in the community, especially Arizona, they're putting a lot of faith in us to do it right, and we want to build that bridge and make sure they understand that our sailors are here to support. We're here to support local community, teach people about what we're doing and the submarine, and the fact that we've connected the history between the Battleship Arizona and our new sub. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of work though.
Yeah, it's like breakfast at a place, dinner at another place. It's great. It's lots of community service, ton of community service, and just community outreach, chamber of commerce events, that kind of stuff. So anyway, the great state of Arizona, which we're trying to, it's not just the legacy, it's the state, and they've been nothing but hugely supportive for us. We have a wonderful commissioning committee. So, And this is the commissioning committee's logo. That's who represents us, and the Arizona Legacy Foundation. So tying in also not just the new submarine, but the past and the battleship into that moment. And then again, why are we also important is the Virginia payload module. So it's another graphic there on the upper right. Is
Here, I'll shift to this one because you can kind of see it better right here.
Yeah.
Right. You see the two tubes up front. They open up, big tubes. We can have 7 Tomahawks in each one of those, and then we have 4 back aft. That's no other submarine has that. That's a fast attack submarine. So that's why it's triple lethality. We can bring any kind of mess to the world if they want to bring it. So
Yeah.
come right to their front door.
And usually, like the ballistic missile submarines, the SSBNs are incredibly important. The nuclear triad, the defense, number one priority in the defense sector, or in the Department of Defense, amazingly important. It's one of those submarines you never want to use, though. That's kind of like the last ditch effort kind of thing. Fast attacks were used, right? So not that they're not, but like you can shoot a Tomahawk in a time of war, in a time of a threat, pretty easy. It's because it's not a it's a smaller weapon, and we do it as America in the past couple decades. So, so we're going to be, once we get commissioned, it'll be, a great asset for America. All right, back on the okay, and then the proud legacy. So those first two things are hugely important, but we really want to get it right. There's some people out there that think, hey, why are we renaming, why are we getting a new warship named Arizona, that kind of stuff. But we believe that actually it's really important to continue the legacy. We've had that time, that 83 years now of post December 7th, 1941. And it's, we've, to honor it most, instead of forgetting about it and having it fade over time, continue the legacy. And since we're part of that, we get to come in and kind of relive it and honor it more. And if we didn't exist, that wouldn't be happening, kind of thing. So that's one of the biggest things for us. That's why it's the biggest honor. It's not just a new submarine, but it's a new submarine named after Arizona, and that's the most special out of anybody. So, also with us, there's 2 other submarines getting built right now: the Utah and the Oklahoma, which is also is referenced in December 7th, 41, or haven't named the ships around them as well. 429 sailors died in Oklahoma, and then also more on Utah. Utah flipped up pretty fast. So, and there's the monuments. If you've been out to Ford Island, there's the Utah Memorial and the Oklahoma Memorial, which is near the USS Missouri. So all 3 submarines, it's 801, 802, and 803. We're 803 are named after those battleships. So we're in that kind of cadre of naming ships. And a lot of people ask too, is like, who decides that? It's a political decision. It's the Secretary of the Navy's office. It's not the active duty military that names things. It's the political end of the military, and so it's their decision. So the SecNav's office does that, and that's who made the decision. And we're honored to execute that decision. So, all right. So a little bit more about our submarine. Hey, so we're a little new construction science. So TAD is temporary duty to operational subs. So while we're doing shipyard stuff, we send our guys to go, operate the boat, run the propulsion plant, learn all this stuff. So we do a lot of that. That's what our sailors are doing most of the time. While we're also training back with the command and doing shipyard work. Honor our heritage is huge. I've talked a little bit about that, but some other examples other than the keel laying on December 7th in Quonset Point. And went to the Navy Memorial last year on December 7th, and being here today, it's just surprising how much around America, specifically Arizona, they give tribute to the battleship. So in Phoenix, for example, in the state capital of Arizona, the whole ground floor of the state capitol is a museum to the battleship, where they have pieces of the battleship, models, the history, the story. They really do it right. There's monuments out in the monument garden in front of the Capitol that honors the Battleship Arizona and also submarines. There's 2 separate ones. In Tucson, the University of Arizona campus has the original bell from the Battleship Arizona. So we got to go see that, and also another museum at the university just for the battleship. And then this year, the last remaining survivor of Battleship Arizona was Mr. Luke Contour, and he died on April 1st of 2024. So we didn't get to meet him because he was very old at the time, but we did get to video him back and forth on his birthday in 2023. And then I was honored to be able to go to his funeral and to help with the folding of the flag at the funeral and give that to his surviving daughter. So in Grass Valley, California, that was a really special moment. And it just kind of turned the page, or not turned the page, but it was the last end of that generation. And I'm glad we got to go kind of give tribute and honor that moment there. So it's honoring the heritage there. It's super important. We want to do it right. And what does doing it right look like? It's like, well, it's not defined. There's nothing that's going to tell you how to do it. You just got to try every day and try to get it right that way. So talked about our namesake experiences. We've done a couple trips to Arizona. We've developed on the wholesaler too. It's not just technical competence for our team. It's also growing mentally, spiritually, physically, doing fitness, command PT, doing team building events, recruiting events, school visits, a lot of community service. We do a monthly food kitchen where we are every month, kind of stuff like that, because why not, right? We're a good group of guys, so let's go help people out. So I mentioned we were popular on the December 7th. For example, yesterday, we're doing here, but at the same time, guys that are back in Connecticut are supporting a December 7th ceremony in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, and another group of our guys are supporting at Norwich, Connecticut, at the December 7th event. So we're kind of spread all over the place.
I got some fun facts if you guys want to know a little bit. Right, so the captain talked about our submarine, right? It's going to be about 460 feet long. So although it's 460 feet long, there are 3 levels in the submarine. And as he said, there's about 135 people attached normally, right? So when we deploy, though, that's 6 months out to sea, not coming back home. So we bring on more people. So there's about 20 more people. So you have about 155 people that get on board this tiny submarine. It sounds long. It's not. Imagine being in your house for 6 months. Imagine COVID like on steroids, right? It sucks. But we make the most out of it. Yeah, we make the most out of it, right? Because we get to go, and when we do get out, we're in a foreign port, and we're like, hey, this is amazing. And so we have all these sailors, right? So 160 sailors in a 6-month deployment. That's roughly 55,000 meals that 5 people cook for us, right? So they get through that. They are nonstop cooking meals. Where do we do our laundry? Well, we're fortunate enough to have 1 washer and 1 dryer, and they will break. So we also have sinks, right? So very common to have your washer or dryer or your washer break and then your dryer. So you're hanging clothes around the boat trying to keep them dry and trying to stay clean, right? We're authorized 5 pieces of equipment for workout, so we can get a treadmill, a couple bikes, maybe like an elliptical. Good luck finding a place to put them, right? Because we still have to work on the submarine, but we find these random spots.
And if you're 6'2" like me on the treadmill, you're kind of like, and it's like, hey, is there a bike? Let's do that. So
we have that. I have about 100 racks for all the enlisted people to live in. So 160 of those, about 16 are officers. So I take those out, and then I have 100 racks to figure out where to put people. So how do we do that? Well, I take 3 people, and I give them 2 racks, and then I put them on rotating shifts. So somebody is always in the rack, called hot racking, right? It's awesome.
Just to note, that has not changed from the Battleship. So my grandfather hot racked in 1941, so not a whole lot of progress there.
So our racks are about, I would say, the size of a coffin, and they're of 6 feet long.
Not a great metaphor, but yeah.
It's 6 feet long, about 2 feet wide, and then when you're sleeping, the next rack is right here, right? So it's very close, and we have this much space underneath our rack where we get to store 6 months worth of clothes, right? So it's a very tight community. What that does is it builds a bond between the crew that is unparalleled, right? By the time you're done, we're running into people left and right saying, oh my gosh, I knew that person. I knew your father. This guy knows both of our fathers.
Yeah.
So it's an unparalleled experience that we have. And we gain a lot of trust, right? The captain is overall in charge of making sure the crew is ready to fight the ship and the officers are ready to lead when the challenge comes. My job, I'm a principal, right? I make sure everything runs smoothly. I take care of the sailors, make sure they're doing fine. I check in with their leadership and make sure that they're taking care of their sailors. And if they screw up, they got to come talk to me. They don't like doing that sometimes. So they tend to avoid it. We have great sailors. So I haven't talked to anyone, and I've been on board for over a year. So it's a fantastic job. This submarine is one of the best experiences that anybody on board is going to have in their career. The legacy is immense. They have so much support for us. Nikki is our sponsor. She said you can be active or inactive as a sponsor. What she didn't say is you can be Nikki active as a sponsor, which is it's like a 12 out of 10, right? So she's fantastic. Like it's immense how much support we have, and it really does make a difference, right? The crew sees that, and they really embrace this submarine, and it's your submarine as well, right? It's the U.S.'s, your tax dollars are going into building this thing for the defense of the nation, and our job is to make sure that we are good caretakers of that. So we train, and that's why we send our sailors out to sea. So when that time comes that they're taking control of our submarine, they will be well trained and well equipped to do such.
There's a command pin that designates the CO, right? And there's a version of that for our more formal uniforms. It's a metal pin, and normally it's just you go to the uniform shop and buy it, and that's what everybody does. But in our case, we have a command pin for just the CO's command pin is made from the metal of the Battleship Arizona, reforged into the pin design. And Nikki gave it to me, and I will be giving it to my relief and his relief and his relief. So for the course of the whole Submarine Arizona's life, our command pin, every CO throughout will have that connection to the battleship right on their chest, kind of thing. So super special there. And then another, why we're in camis and not whites, we'd normally be in whites today, is that right after this, we're going to be going out to the, and seeing kind of
Boneyard is the technical.
Yeah, Boneyard. It's kind of a restricted area of the submarine base, but like when they built the memorial, they had to kind of cut off some of the superstructure and put the superstructure in this area that's restricted on the base, and we're going to go see that, which is a very unique moment. No one really gets to do that, so we're dressed for that today. That's why we're in green. So, but anyway, that's how much we care about the legacy, and we hopefully we're doing it right. But we're shift over to questions. Any questions out there? If anybody has them.
Somebody in the back row?
So we're going to be fast attack. Fast attacks only get one crew, so 6 months, then you come back, you do some maintenance, and then train up to do another one. Boomers, the SSBN submarines, which is not us, do the blue and gold crew. So for just the reference of the audience, it's like one crew takes it out for 3 or 4 months. The boat comes in, the crews swap out, and the boat goes right out with a new crew, and they go out for 3 or 4 months. While that other crew kind of gets some time off in training, and then that boat comes back and they swap back again. So they swap back and forth. We are, not us though. We'll be a fast tech model because we're fast tech submarines. Good question.
Heard commissioning this year in Pearl Harbor. I assume that Arizona will be stationed in Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, that decision hasn't been made yet.
Okay.
We really want that. I think it's just poetic for that. Like other examples, the USS Hawaii is in Hawaii. The USS Missouri is in Hawaii as well, and the Battleship Missouri is here. It's very nice. Hey, wouldn't that make sense for the Arizona, especially with all those Tomahawks to be in the Pacific Theater? So
And that's Miss Stratton's
number one
she has
thing.
focused so much energy on that. They're just like, how can I help you? And she's like, we're gonna talk about the Arizona, we're commissioning it. And they're like, it's a few years out. She's like, I know, but she keeps going. So
Things
great.
like that take a lot of planning. Commissioning takes a lot of planning, especially if you're going to take a boat from one side of the country to the other through the Panama Canal. I'm very vocal about having it commissioned here. I'm also very vocal about having it stationed here. I have absolutely no say, but I feel like I'm my father's daughter and my grandfather's granddaughter, and I'm annoying enough to be like, no, it needs to be here. It needs to be here. So hopefully they'll just listen to me to shut me up, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, decision's not been made yet, but that's what we're all advocating for. So,
Call your senators.
yes, ma'am.
You may have said this in the beginning, but it didn't stay long enough with the white hair. Do you have a firm ETA on the subject?
We're it's probably going to get in the water 2027, maybe early 2027, and commission 2029-ish, based on the current rate of production of modules. It's a little longer than the past, right? But because we have trying to get so many submarines, that's the kind of gets a little saturated at the production line. That's really what's going on there. So as soon as Electric Boat gives us pieces pieces to the puzzle of the submarine. We're gonna, you know, we're ready. We're gonna go. We're gonna get it done. We're just waiting on that. Those pieces all to come in and take. It's a massive project. So, but that's ish timelines. So.
I was just wondering, could you say a few more words about the differences with nuclear propulsion for the ship?
Yeah. Okay. So there's two types of ships in the Navy that are propulsion by nuclear power. One is all submarines in the Navy are nuclear powered submarines, and all aircraft carriers are nuclear powered aircraft carriers. The rest are gas turbine. So they use fuel. They have to refuel. It's a wonderful thing to be nuclear powered because it's incredibly safe, great training and operations, and we never refuel for the life of the ship. We're going to be probably a 40. In 40 years we'll know exactly how long it's going to be, but around 40 years of a submarine, and we'll never refuel. It'll just be the fuel that's put in the beginning. That's it. Like you don't have to go to the gas pump. You don't.
To touch on that, right? So, talking about sustainability underwater, right? So nuclear power provides us all the electricity we need.
Yep.
We can make all of our own water, so we don't have to worry about any of that out to sea. The only limitation we have is food, and when we deploy, it gets ridiculous because you're walking on cans because they go anywhere we can put them, right? So you have food and all the outboards, like the void spaces. You just fill them up with all the food, pasta. I've seen a stack of pasta like this, and they're like, this is 6 months, maybe. We'll reload when we go into a foreign port. We'll have a food load, and like a semi comes, drops off like 18 pallets, and we just shove it all on board again, and then we're ready to go. So we can do everything. We're self-sufficient 100% with the exception of food.
Yeah, food, and then fresh food on the food thing. Fresh food lasts about maybe 2 weeks. So like you got some salad, and every time you do a BSP and you get like a fresh load on board, you're like, ooh, you get some fruit and some salad, and it's great. Maybe some ice cream, right? Even though that's not fresh, but you run out of ice cream pretty quick. And then about 2 weeks later, it's like none of that happens. You're on powdered milk, but it's all good. But it's good. It's kind of the life of the submarine.
I think the running joke is that we get I get this question a lot during presentations: is how long can it stay underwater, the submarine? And pretty much it can stay underwater indefinitely until the food runs out, or more importantly, the coffee runs out.
Or the toilet paper.
Yeah, with the toilet paper. We bring a ton of toilet paper.
There's an equation for toilet paper, by the way.
Yeah.
It's 1.5 rolls per person per week. Right, and they'd say, use this equation. That's how many rolls you need to bring. So yeah, we have equations for everything. It's crazy.
There'll be a quiz at the end for that. So
Yeah, Commander, you said you were the first boat in the class with the Virginia payload model?
Yes.
Module. Are all subsequent boats in the class have that module?
I believe it's contracted out for 6 of us, and then they'll do that for a bit, then go back to the normal. And then as they need them more often, but we're the first of a few.
So of those, we know the names of the first 4, right? Arizona, the Tang, the Wahoo, and Barb, which are very World War II high sink count. So they took out a lot of
Very
stuff.
famous submarines from World War II, diesel boats.
Yeah. So we're honoring them as well by renaming them. And then, I don't know the next 2 ones, they haven't got that far, so.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you were able to make water on board, is that through desalination? How do you do that?
Yeah, it used to be evaporators, and now we're reverse osmosis units, which are very reliable. They make a ton of water. We have 2 units for redundancy. And we make our own water, we make our own air, we make our own electrical power.
So you
Again.
use seawater that comes in?
Yep, little molecule seawater. That's a ship's board for the new guys. It's like, how does a molecule of seawater in the ocean become drinking water? How does it become this? And then you got to go through the whole production of that. But yeah, it's really great water too. It's really.
What about gray water? You just dispel that out of the submarine?
Certain times, certain areas. You have to pump your bilges. Absolutely. All right, well, it was an honor to come out and talk today. It's great to be in Hawaii. It was snowing when we left Connecticut. Literally, we drove through the snow, and we were no-go to travel because of that. But super happy to be here. Hopefully you enjoy your time on the site today, learn a little bit. Thanks for listening to our presentation.